Tony Vlahos is Chief Storyteller, Head of Brand and Learning for Execunet. Execunet is not merely a job search site. It's billed as, quote, an inside place for senior level people to privately figure stuff out, unquote. Tony, did you come up with that? Is that your thing?
I sure did, Dave.
It's pretty cool. Let's just jump in here. Even in ordinary times, you notice how I didn't do the quote marks on ordinary times? Even in ordinary times, leaders, they're stressed. They're tasked with keeping employees and staff motivated, focused. How has COVID-19 messed up that entire game board?
Well, it depends on who you ask, who the leaders are, and who their followers are. Most organizations were not prepared for remote work. That's a fact. But many of us were. So it's not that great a stretch. Certainly, there are things that need to be done somewhat differently. Logistically, for example,
Mm-hmm.
technology being another consideration. But in the end, if you have a clear vision
Mm-hmm.
and a strategy and you're decisive and your team knows what they're supposed to be doing, what the work is, people get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So the structure doesn't really change. The playing field might have changed, but the mission remains the same. And if everyone understands what that is and they're excited about it, you just find ways creatively to push forward and get it done.
Heading into this, if I'm going to make some broad generalizations and throw a flag on the play, but um, if an organizational's culture is healthy, heading into a storm, I mean, its odds of being okay are probably much better, I would imagine, right?
Well, sure, a strong culture makes all the difference.
A positive culture, I'm
A
implying.
positive culture, absolutely. I read you right.
Okay, I didn't
But
read
my
you out.
feeling is that in times like these, culture has to take a bit of a second or back seat.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, because you still need to get things done.
okay.
And often it's really hard, especially for companies that are not accustomed to working this way,
Mm-hmm.
to foster a culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's critical, there's no
Mm-hmm.
doubt about it. And
Mm-hmm.
there are so many creative ways we can do that with
Mm-hmm.
the platforms we're all using, Zoom and others.
Sure.
But in the end, my belief is that leaders have to operate slightly differently,
Mm-hmm.
be more decisive, make choices that, yes, impact everyone and
Mm-hmm.
everyone needs to get with. But in many instances, it's the best way forward,
Mm-hmm.
not to essentially rely on a committee. That's never a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
But leading more decisively, I think, is important in these times.
Um, a very popular quote, I would say, over the past 5 to 10 years, and I find myself alternately loving it and hating it, is never let a crisis go to waste. Do you agree with that sentiment? Why or why not?
I do, as you know, Dave, most of the people that we help here at Execunet are senior level executives who find themselves in a job search
Hmm.
and possibly did before the crisis, or fear layoffs and furloughs, or know they will be facing them soon. And they have a choice, like we have a choice every single day.
Hmm.
I can be stuck at home or I can be productive at home. I
Hmm.
can make the choice to wait or I can make the choice to move forward.
Hmm.
And clearly, we tell our audience keep moving forward. Jobs are surging in many sectors. And in places where they're not, guess what? Those organizations are planning to emerge from the crisis with the right leaders at the helm to make the changes happen and make up for, in some cases, lost time or lost ground. So we tell people make that choice yourself to be considered. Those who don't get the positions are the ones who don't step forward,
Hmm.
don't raise their visibility, aren't building their network, aren't
Sure.
demonstrating their impact. But when you're doing those things in a crisis or otherwise, guess what? You're considered.
Mm.
And more than considered, if you're part of the Execunet family
Hmm.
of members, we show you how to set yourself apart from everyone else and be seen as not only the best, but the only choice for that role. So it's really important not to lose that focus and stay forward moving, and that's what our brand service is about.
Execunet.com.
Yes.
Okay. And finally, my wrap up question, my thematic question ad nauseum that I ask everybody who's nice enough to sit and talk with me is Tony, what lessons are we learning right now that we must not forget?
Wow, that's a great question. They're all great questions, but I love that one. Well, I'll speak on behalf of brands everywhere for a moment, personal or otherwise. Let's not forget that people are the most important thing, that empathy and generosity aren't just for times of crisis. It should be a way of life. It should be what brands always do for people. It should be what we as individuals always do for each other. Help each other through stuff, understand one another, show what is now called empathy, but it's caring, it's service. And there's nothing better to get you through a difficult time than service and doing something for someone else. I hope we don't forget that when this is over.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, and maybe at some point we could revisit some of these things. Thank you.
I would love to. Thank you, Dave.